are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. Mike.
Nailed it.
What's up? I don't have a really cool long intro for Mike this morning. I feel like we exhausted that last time. No, I actually
wasted the good one last week.
Yeah, I mean, it was so good. It was such a good intro, dude.
Father of scooters. I'm trying to get them to start calling me that around the shop. But
Yeah,
hasn't really taken off yet.
Father of scooters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. What's up, man?
Not much, man. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I know we were trying to decide whether it's July 2nd or
Yeah, we do this
August
every
5th.
week. So we get the release notes, and it's like, this is the record date. This is when it releases. What do you want to talk about? So I did get one little nugget for you while I was doing my homework.
Dude, I'm so proud of you.
August 5th, which is the day that this episode drops, is National Work Like a Dog Day. So here's to all the hustlers out there.
All right, everybody better be working like a dog today.
Yeah.
August 5th. That's great, man. Thanks for looking that up on the fly.
I did it. Whee!
It's funny because we're, for those of you that know anything about our business right now, we are trying to get some content pre-recorded to get us through August because, again, if this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, this is actually not a studio as much as it is a scooter business office. And that's what all these computers are on. This office will be insane during back to school time in August because our process changes, which is kind of an interesting to talk about real quick. The process changes. Tell everybody a little bit about how our process changes at the shop.
Most of the year, we process everything over the counter. People come in, they're interested in a scooter. We have a salesperson take them around the showroom, pick out the scooter that they need, do the paperwork right there. When it gets to the volume time, which is really the week of back to school, this office just basically becomes the full-on admin side of things. We'll do all the sales in the showroom, and then as soon as you pick your scooter, you pick all your accessories, it kind of gets in a queue, and then we have a paperwork team that just operates out of this office, and they basically par everything out and then go get the customer, and they're processing like 5 paperworks at a time just from this office. Yeah, so it gets pretty wild, which is actually a process that you started in the middle of like chaos. Like, everybody wait. And he comes out with this giant whiteboard. He's like, we're changing. So it's pretty funny.
Dude, that was crazy. I'll never forget that moment because like everybody was starting to get super flustered. Right, everybody's starting to get flustered. There were so many people in the shop. We realized that we weren't going to sell 5 scooters that day, but probably 25.
Yeah, our previous high day was 18, and that day we ended up selling 42 scooters, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. But literally came in and changed the process in the middle of the day. I'm like, everybody, stop. Here's the new process. I wrote it down on, was it a whiteboard?
It was like a 3M paper or something.
I'm like, this is the new process. This is what we're doing starting right now. and then we made everybody come in early the next day to kind of go through that process again.
Debrief, rebrief.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah. Embrace and shape change.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Core value 4, baby. There you go. So. Chaos. Well, cool, man. I want to introduce to you our amazing guest today. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
All right. Here we go. Today on the show, we have Jason and Alex, directors and co-founders of Power Production Management Incorporated. I was not even going to attempt their last name.
I asked him if he was ready to do the last names, and that's why, because he just decided not to.
just like, yeah, I'm gonna so what's your last name?
Smith.
Dang, I can't believe I screwed that up. I could have said that one.
It was Smythe.
Well, all right, you want to introduce yourself? Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Jason Gonos.
Okay.
Alex Khokhlov.
All right, say yours one more time.
Khokhlov.
Yeah, but it starts with a what? K?
With a K, but it sounds like an H.
But it sounds like an H.
Yep.
I mean, you can see why a guy would get confused on this.
The K is silent. Yeah, the K is silent. The only word ever in history.
Well, guys, like...
wait, knockout, I guess, but... and night.
There's a lot of
silent
Let's spend 10 minutes on this subject. Let's figure this out.
How many silent Ks can you think of?
Night.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to spend the entire podcast thinking of those. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on,
awesome.
man. Thanks for waking up early with us.
Yeah.
We're doing a morning episode after last week's nighttime episode, which still gets released at 8 a.m. I think that's the interesting part of that night episode. It's still going to go out at 8 a.m. on Monday morning.
People are going to be like, wow, you guys are wired.
Yeah, you guys are really wired that Monday. I had so much energy going. Hey, people are going to be like, I had so much energy going into that work week.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
I don't know. We're still experimenting, trying to figure out because we want to accommodate our guests. Sometimes 7:30 is like really hard. Is this early for you guys? Yeah, it's good. No, this is good for you?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I mean, maybe we just have to do both. or like have like a time and then just let the guests choose, because we want to be
Accommodating?
Yeah, accommodating. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like working for the word. That's why you're
I'm
here.
your foil. Always.
Your foil. That's why you're here. Well, guys, you've seen our format. What we like to do is like we like to dive into like the origin story first, right? Like really take us back, because and this is gonna be kind of interesting because now we have business partners on the show. And we just got finished up wrapping up July, where we had husband-wife business partners. So there could be a little bit of a different perspective there with business partners that aren't married to each other. Right. and I've had, I've been in multiple business partnerships throughout the year with New Scooters for Less and with Gulejo Coffee, now with Repaint. So it's always an interesting subject, but I think it's cool that we have two business partners here this morning. But yeah, you guys take us back. Like, tell us your entrepreneurial journey and what led to the creation of your company. Who wants to go first?
I'll let you take it.
It all started back in. Alex and I met each other back in 2007 or so, and we were working together at the State Materials office and at the Department of Transportation here, doing engineering work. So I was training him on some equipment, and after 3 days of working together, he said, "Hey man, do you want to go into business together?"
Really?
Yeah, I swear.
After 3 days?
After 3 days.
It was 4 days. I don't do 3 days.
So the rest is history. Here we are.
I mean, that
12 years later.
Literally, that was
13.
it.
No. So, I was like, yeah, that would be really cool. And I had dabbled in some businesses before, around graduation. And I had recently graduated about a year before. And so we had a couple different ideas he had a lot of different ideas for businesses. And I had already been engaged in one, but we were going to do a tinting company.
That was one of my horrible ideas.
Where we wanted to, it was actually kind of cool. We wanted to build a tinting company that had pre-cut tint cutouts for different cars. You could order it. We'd order it ahead. We'd bring our van out to the workplace, cover the whole car with this thing to extend it out. We designed it and everything. And then we watched the guy tint a car, and we're like, no, I don't want to do that. We're watching him like in the back seat, dripping sweat off of his legs, and we're like, nah, let's do something else. So we got into something even more sweaty and dirty.
Right. One thing worth mentioning is the name of the potential tinting company.
Oh, good.
We're going to call it Nice Tints! Exclamation point.
Yeah.
Nice tints.
I love it.
So we killed that idea, and then we had a couple other ones. I don't remember the other ideas. Do you?
Dude, that'd be a great hashtag. I'm just
It
think
was
about it.
It was awesome. I mean, it would have.
There's still time, guys.
We'd be millionaires by now.
I get very mixed reactions to when I tell the name.
Yeah, you guys liked it. That was good. Some people get really offended. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean?
It's self-explanatory.
So,
our tents are nice.
So I had gone to school for engineering, and I wanted to build a solar-powered air conditioner. And I had a partner that we were looking at doing that, and we had an investor and all this stuff, and it fell through, and that's what led me to get the job at the State Materials office. So we had this consulting firm where we were doing solar, and so I was like, hey, let's look at this thing, because after that we didn't really know what we wanted to do, and he was like, yeah, let's look at the solar thing. So
wait, you were just consulting?
Yeah,
as a side hustle or what?
Yeah, it was like I put it on hold because of an investor dropped out that was going to finance the company, and I was completely broke, and I had a couple jobs at the same time, and I didn't want to go to work as an engineer somewhere, because I knew that once I got into that work zone that I was going to be kind of stuck there for a while, and I'd probably get comfortable with a nice salary and all that stuff. So I wanted to be a little uncomfortable for a little bit longer and see if something would come out of it. So, and it actually did. It was pretty cool. But I did.
So what year was that?
That was 07.
Okay.
So we started working on some solar stuff together, and we went for this really ambitious project. It was like a $8 million thing. We'd never done solar before, so we got all these people together, this in-kind contribution from different professors and engineers to bid on this project. We were working, 8 to 12 hours a day at the Department of Transportation. Then we were working 4 or 5 hours a day on this thing after work. And somebody had found the thumb drive that had this information on it. And Alex and I didn't really have great friends at the DOT. And somebody printed it out and brought it to the boss and said, hey, look what these guys are working on. And they're using state time to work on this personal project, and we both got fired over it. It was crazy. It was crazy. Like they had no proof. They just had a printout. They had our names on it, and they're like, "We got to let you go." So, so that day we were. This is all. I actually told this recently. That day we were leaving. I was distraught. I was like, "How am I going to tell my mom?" This guy was seasoned at getting fired or something. I don't know. He was like, "Thank you very much. Goodbye." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to tell my parents?" It's like my first job out of college and stuff. And so I remember we're going home, and it was so weird. We were going to my apartment at the time to talk, and I always remember this. It's so strange. I looked over and I saw a $10 bill rolling like end over end, like a
it's like a tumbleweed.
It was so weird. Yeah, it was like, I was like, "Whoa, look at that!" And I grabbed it, and I was like, "That's a good sign." And then, we've been in business since then. It was like 11 years ago, 12 years ago.
What did you do that pissed that person off? I have to know.
This guy.
On you.
This guy came in with the know-it-all attitude, and he was working on this equipment. He was doing.
I thought the cause was the. Knowledge and serving taxpayers.
Yeah, serving the customer, which is the taxpayer of Florida, with proper data collection was his job. And he found that it had been improperly collected for like 10 or 20 years or something crazy.
The reality is I have not presented the issue correctly. I just threw it out there. Hey, guys, you've been doing this wrong for 30 years, and you're about to retire on something you've been doing wrong for 30
you left
years.
something out. I can't believe I found it in 2 weeks. Something you've been doing wrong for 30 years.
Fresh perspective is so important.
I didn't actually say it that way, but it may have come across.
That's how it was received. So all of a sudden, within a few weeks, we weren't working there anymore. So after that, we dove into solar. We started working with my old partner. We got into the consulting thing. We worked with a couple contractors locally and helping develop their sales on commercial and residential photovoltaic at the time. It wasn't big like it is now, the solar electric. It was all thermal systems like hot water collectors and pool heating systems and things like that. So we went with some of the contractors that were selling thermal systems and helped develop their electric side of the business. And within that first 3 months, we did something close to like $800,000 in sales. And we were like, whoa, like high-fiving, jumping, made a really nice chunk of money, and then the economy took a dump.
Something to be said about Gainesville. I grew up in Moscow and lived in Baltimore for a little while, and then in Orlando, having more of a big city experience. And then we started this, and I remember the first customer writing us.
So what brought you to Gainesville then?
Well, the job. I was actually relocated for the job that Jason was talking about.
Okay.
We actually were contracted out of University of North Florida, but located at the State Materials Office. So we're both researching for the UNF at the time.
Okay, so that job brought you here.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so I remember the first commercial customer wrote us something in the ballpark of $200,000 and hands over a check and goes, "Well, if you screw up, I'll break your legs." And I was like, "I love Gainesville. I love Gainesville.
Just like Russia.
This is impossible, So
He meant it too. And we didn't screw up.
set us up on a nice start there, yeah.
So was that your primary? Was it mostly commercial, or was there any residential at that time? Or
There was a little residential, but we kind of stumbled into a couple commercial deals that they were larger. So
how do you stumble into $200,000?
it was.
I've been trying to do that for a
This
long
is actually
time.
a crazy story too. At the apartment that I lived at, the landlord, I talked to him a bunch of times, and he's like, "Oh, my friend was talking about solar. Call this guy." It was so crazy. I called the guy, and a week later, the guy bought a $250,000 system from us, just from like a 10-minute conversation with my landlord. I'm still friends with this guy today, both of them, the customer and the landlord.
Do they want a $250,000 scooter?
Can you make one?
Yeah, I'll figure that
Are
out.
there diamonds involved?
Maybe.
Cold
Hey, we can get a
thrusters.
He'll drill them.
I'll do it.
So yeah, literally just fell in our lap, and it was, we gave him the presentation, and like within a week, he was like, "Yeah, this makes sense. Let's do it." And at the time there was a state rebate, there was the tax credit. He was just developing a new office space, so he was renovating the whole thing. GRU at the time had a rebate, so even though the cost was really, really high at the time, the rebates brought it down to almost as good as the cost is today. So the cost is lower now.
Okay, so take me back a little bit. the tent idea. This was before
He just got the
you
joke.
got fired.
This was before. So when we were still working together, we were talking about going into business. When we were still working at
So you were still working there.
Yeah, we were
All
still working there.
So 2007, you got fired.
yeah.
Started a new company.
Mhm.
Did 800,000 in sales in 3 months.
Mhm.
And how long? Like when was it in 2007? Like how long was it before like when you started and then the economy tanked and you're just like what?
Well-
Like did that affect you at all?
Yeah,
we had about a
Oh,
year.
absolutely.
Yeah, because we thought we can expand out and kind of duplicate our idea and know how it goes, and through that, and then we get sliced at our knees right at that growth stage,
Yeah.
kind of. So it was interesting.
So you had to like just reel it back.
Yes.
Okay.
Substantially.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't by choice. It was like,
Well, how were you planning on growth?
Well, we were gonna set up an office in Orlando at the time. We hired a
we
sales
did
team.
set up an office in Orlando.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, we did more. You know, we got into a long-term lease and all these things, and
We've developed a few projects out there successfully.
then it was just like boom, nobody was buying anything. You know, we were even doing door-to-door campaigns, and people were like slamming.
How many
the door in our
people were
face.
working with you at that time or for you?
At the time when we were going door to door, everybody was gone. It was just two of us.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like ghost town. Nobody was out going to work. Nobody was
Yeah.
But I mean,
driving.
when you were going to expand to Orlando, did you have team members working with you?
Yeah, we
Initially.
had
How many
a couple
people?
guys. We had
Okay,
a couple
okay.
sales guys because we were working with contractors, so we were
Okay.
kind of like the sales arm.
Gotcha.
That would bring them jobs, and their crews would install it. We were still working on the design and the engineering and all this other stuff, but we weren't initially doing those installations. But once we did the expansion, we were involved with the installation. Alex and I would be actually working on those installations ourselves. So yeah, we were pretty spread thin at the time.
So I remember knocking on somebody's door and offering him some savings. I think I said, "Hey, you can save $30 a month if you just switch over to this." And they're like, "I lost my 401k. I lost all of my pension and my savings and my house. I don't care about $30 a month." They just slammed the door in my face.
Yeah.
So that
Thank
Solar
you.
was
Have a nice day.
Solar was a
Continue.
tough sell back in 08, 09.
Yeah. So what did you do to get through it?
We just kept working. I don't know. I mean, we didn't. Obviously, you don't know how bad the problem is, right? When that happened, you don't. You think that stuff's going to bounce back. You don't know what you need to do. We just kept working. We didn't know how bad it really was. We didn't. We were young. We didn't have our pulse on the industry yet. We didn't have our pulse on the global economic situation. Just think. I mean, 12 years ago, how different the internet was, and Twitter didn't even exist, and Facebook was still very young, and so the news and the way that you got information was a lot different, and so we just kept working. We had to leave one contractor because he stopped paying us our commissions, and we worked with another guy. We developed his whole division, sold a bunch of commercial stuff, or we did a few commercial jobs, a bunch of residential jobs. Alex and I were installing them personally. With other crew members, we were selling them, we were packaging them, we were doing everything, 100%. And that guy also ended up screwing us over. Worked with another guy, he did the same thing. One guy got us to get credit with a company. We got like $50,000 of materials for a project, and he just didn't pay us for it.
Dang.
He's like, "I'm just not going to pay you." We tried to sue him, and we ended up only getting $20,000. It was just these things kept happening, a lot of things like that.
And do you think it was because of the economy for them too, or why?
No, I think it was those were just personality traits. I think
just
some of
terrible-
the people, they were just bad
terrible
people.
values.
Yeah. And so after, the third guy, I ended up getting, we were like, we got to get our own license. We have to be completely licensed and build this company ourselves. So that's when we started Power Production Management, was the beginning of 2009. And out of, getting screwed over by 3 different contractors, losing a lot of money. One guy, we were basically supporting him with like a $10,000 a month salary that this guy was taking out of the company. We didn't know about. We were Alex and I were working, paying ourselves like $10 an hour to get a bonus at the end of these jobs. And we find out the guy's wiped out his bank account. And we were like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm just not going to pay you. And we're like, well, we tried to sue him, and we ended up only getting $20,000. And it was just those were just personality traits. I think some of the people, they were just bad people.
Yeah.
And at the end of the job, we asked for like a couple $1,000s. Like, there's no money left. What are you talking about? And we just worked for like a month sleeping in like flea bag motels to save money on the project and get as much out of it. So that was the last straw for us. And we built the company. And then once we started the company, it was in February 2009. We didn't get a sale for 6 months. And so in the meantime, that was like all developing, building, living as cheaply as possible, having issues with rent and other things. And we both went and got other jobs to support it. You know, I actually delivered for, what was it at the time? Gator Food. Mm-hmm. Did food delivery.
I drove a town car.
He drove a town car. There was days that this guy actually drove a car where he paid for the car because he didn't get any fares. So, you know, that's how we were working. And just living as cheap as possible.
So was this something that you guys had become passionate about then through that? Because I mean, it sounded like very early. I mean, you guys were talking about tent ideas and other things. I mean, were you guys like looking?
Maybe this isn't it.
Were you like looking for a business? Like, hey, I want to own a business, or was it like very much like, dude, like there's a real opportunity here, or it's just something that you just naturally became passionate about, and you're like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life?
For me, it was a combination of things. One was the pride, like if we started something, we better succeed at it, and the other one was a genuine passion for the industry and the concept itself as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. To me, it was a big pride issue as well. Like if we're not going to fail at this. We know it works. You know, we can make it work.
I just assumed life sucked. So just keep doing it. Eventually you'll get out of it.
Just a mindset of like, you'll get through. I mean, it's good.
I think it was more with me. It
sounded very much the same for you. Like very much a perseverance. Like
it was perseverance.
Work.
I was raised to work hard and to keep moving and go after things. But it was, I don't know, I think with me, I always knew that, and I think Alex always knew this too, that we always each had a backup plan if we wanted to. Like, to me, that was like my going and just working as an engineer, having a degree in engineering, and then going to get an engineering job, to me was failure. And that was like, and I'm not saying to anybody that that's a failure to do that. In my mind, that meant that I failed at pursuing business. And I always thought it was interesting that I chose to go into business because there was just something about it. I can't put it into words. It was like it's just something I had to do. When I was in school, I was like, I don't want to just go sit in front of a computer all day and be an engineer. I want to do something for myself. You know, starting work young, having bosses. Alex started very young, having a lot of bosses, knowing that I don't want to have bosses. I think that was a big part of it.
So when you guys finally decided that you're going to do your own thing and like stop working with all those people that were screwing you over, I mean, what was that like? Because that was 2009, you said? Mm-hmm. I mean, from an economic standpoint, I don't really remember things.
2009 was terrible.
It was terrible.
Which, you know, as we're growing and looking into...
It's funny, real quick, like the reason I keep going on the economy thing, right? This is something that is so big that people seriously like lose sleep over.
Yeah,
like right now everybody's kind of like, man,
it should be happening any day now.
I can't tell you how many times I hear, oh, this should be happening anytime. Yeah. Like everybody's kind of looking at their watch and people stop taking risks and stop doing a lot of things because they're worried that everything's going to come tumbling down. And you know, for me it's a little bit interesting because I think we're in, I don't want to say a lucky situation, but when the economy crashed, we weren't affected.
Well, you're more isolated.
Yeah. Like think about it. Like I mean,
positively affected.
I tell people ask me about like, oh, did the economy hurt you? Actually, I would say it benefited us.
Yeah.
More
people are saving money on gas. And
I mean,
looking for economic transportation. Gas went up to $4 a gallon.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people had these giant gas guzzlers that couldn't afford anymore.
Like, let me get a scooter.
You go from a 5 mile a gallon to 80 to 100 miles a gallon.
like our sales definitely went up because everybody's fear and talking about gas prices. Oh my gosh, gas prices are gonna be $5 a gallon. Everybody was buying scooters and I mean that was good for. I guess if there was one bad thing, there was probably like 25 competitors. It's like every gas station on the corner was selling scooters at that point. So
Pet boys.
Pet boys. Good job there. It was like crazy things like that. But the one thing that never changed was the University of Florida. I mean, we knew that there was going to be students coming in the fall. We knew that they were still going to be having the same parking issues and so we counted on that and it did ended up working out just fine for us. But I don't know. That's why my mind keeps going back to the economy because I think a lot of people are still, like, even right now, there's just a lot of buzz. When's this thing? What's happening? What's next? And I don't know. So I was just kind of interested in that, and so it sounded like you guys just kind of grinded through that, got through that fine. When did things really start to turn around?
Well, like I was saying, you never know when it's going to start getting better. So I think that's where the perseverance came in. It was, maybe we knew that it wouldn't be like that forever. Maybe, we did still have the taste of those first few sales, even though this was like 2 years later now, or a year and a half later. So we knew that people wanted it. We knew it was a good thing. We knew what we were doing was something good. And we knew that it was building momentum and that it was becoming more massively adopted on a global scale.
Real quick, sorry, this is what I was talking about earlier before the episode when I said my ADHD brain would start going.
Yeah, that's great.
You said you had an investor that decided to pull out or not invest, right? Was that during the economic?
That had nothing to do with it. That was just a disagreement over terms of the contract.
Okay.
And
cool. I was just curious.
Yeah, so that guy actually got me started in my first business, so I always thank him. He was a pretty incredible guy named Robert Elmore down in South Florida. He was like 92 years old when he passed away, and he started me in business when he was like 88 and got me into the indoor air quality thing, hygienic air handler and things. But he was one of the first guys that did paved roadways in South Florida, like paved driveways in South Florida. So that's how old he is. So that's where he made his money, doing rock quarries down in South Florida where he paved driveways. So
interesting.
Give him a shout out.
Shout out. Sorry about that.
That's good.
Continue
Where
on.
were we? What year?
We're just getting through the tough times. One thing to be said about that is like our families, I think, something to reflect on. Look, my wife, my parents, they were extremely supportive. Although my parents were remote, just having that kind of faith in you as an individual, like, really helps you get through. So, and I happened to be married young when I was 19. So my wife has been awesome through the whole process, very supportive through. And there was a point in time in 08 when I was actually evicted from my apartment. I was like, well, there's no money to pay rent. So, honey, we're gonna get served. That was a really crazy time.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about going back to Moscow?
I never thought of that, but there were some job offers on the table. Like Jason said, there was always that little leverage in the background. Like, hey, you can always just give up, take a job. It's actually a nice one too. So,
yeah, the worst case scenario wasn't necessarily that bad. There's always something that you could do potentially. So
what kept you from not pursuing, like, getting the job? You just love this idea so much. You're like, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna do this. Like, let's go.
I had faith in the concept. I had faith in kind of further development of the industry. I had faith in my business partner. There was no reason to quit. You just had to keep going. So they were not good enough reasons.
You were about to be kicked out of your house.
I did get kicked out of my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't like violent or anything. Police officer came and said, I'm so sorry. You're getting evicted. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be out of here in 24 hours. He goes, okay, cool. So that was it.
Dang.
That's wild.
Yeah, and he just moved.
So I mean,
found a cheaper place and moved.
Okay, so you found another place, moved. I mean, you were able to
fix my credit over the next decade.
Yeah. I mean, these are serious things. I mean, that takes a hell of a lot of confidence in yourself to be willing to do that, because 99.999% of people are gonna go take the nice job, right? I mean, it's just they are.
Or ignorance.
Well, it's a matter of choice.
Pride. Most entrepreneurs are. I mean, we're like, here we are. We're like,
it's a matter of choice and personality. I wouldn't blame people necessarily for making a different choice. It's just, it was right for me at the time and for us.
I think we had gone through so much crap with the other stuff, and we're like this, he got evicted right before we started PPM, but we were going through so much, and we had been involved in, we'd worked on these projects together. We were learning the solar industry. We were learning how to do these installations from the ground up. There were no YouTube videos showing like installations or installation practice or workmanship or anything like that. It was very, very primitive at the time. So we were, learning on the fly, coming up with stuff from installation manuals that weren't even really, they were just like kind of told you what it's supposed to look
Learning
like.
and inventing. Yeah, there were no standard practices in the industry. Nobody even knew about it. Every time you applied for a permit for a solar system, people would say, like, what is this? Where is that pool you're heating? No, this makes electricity. What do you mean?
Yeah. We literally had inspectors show up and say, where's the pool this thing's heating? We're like,
Like, what?
like, it generates electricity. He was like, what? They've never seen it before.
I just don't think this thing works. We don't touch these wires. Oh, no thanks.
So after that, we were fine. I think we were, looking back, it's easier to identify some of these things. When you're looking forward or you're in the situation, it's hard to see why you're doing certain things unless you have a really strong conviction to do it. But I think now looking back, one of the things that kept us moving once we started the company is that we just started our own business. We just got screwed by a bunch of guys, and now we weren't going to take that anymore. So it was like, this is our opportunity to do exactly what we've been doing, but all the benefit goes to us now. And we have full control. So I think that was one of the things that kept me moving after, even though the economy was really bad in 2009 and, we were still having trouble. We just worked really hard. I mean, that's the way
So
it
when
is.
did you guys feel like, okay, sigh of relief? We made it. We made it through. Like,
2 years ago, and then
Okay.
and then and then lost a sigh of relief a year ago, and then are regaining it again. So that sigh of relief comes and goes, I think, sometimes with different businesses. But I don't know.
We're always reinvesting and growing as fast as humanly possible. We, as I've said, we haven't had angel investors or capital, or we essentially financed ourselves through our own projects, right? Our customers built us who we are today. So not having that...
How big is the company today?
It's about $5 million a year,
Okay.
and it's about 30 employees.
Okay. And they're all here?
Yes, they're
Okay.
all here in Gainesville currently, except for one. But
Yeah, we have.
I mean, so was it the thing that happened with the crash, Orlando backing out? I mean, is that what really kept you guys in Gainesville? And you're just like, all right, we can do this from here? Or, have you thought about branching out other places, or are you? I mean, I think that's what's kind of great about Gainesville. I always tell people, I'm like, dude, we're like an hour and a half from everything, 2 hours from everything.
Yeah.
If you want to go to Tallahassee, you can, but but you got Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Orlando, Tampa. I mean, it's right there.
We've, one of the reasons we came here is because Gainesville was like a solar hub in the Southeast. It was the first place they did a feed-in tariff in the country. So that's, what the feed-in tariff is?
Nope.
It's basically when the utility buys power directly from you. So if you put a solar system on your roof, it doesn't go to the building, it goes directly to the utility. They pay you a tariff for it.
Gotcha.
So they were paying a very high rate, and it was a very successful program. And that was one of the reasons we stayed here, because there was all this pro-solar sentiment. And as far as, central to north central Florida, Gainesville is this little oasis that has this very progressive mindset. There's a lot of people that want to do solar here. And surprisingly, though, we didn't really get any work here. Even though we were established here, we were doing work everywhere else in the state because the feed-in tariff got oversubscribed. And there was no capacity available. So even though we were located here, we ended up doing stuff all over the state.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, then we stayed. I mean, it is still very progressive when it comes to solar power, and most people are in Gainesville. Not most, but I would say a lot of people here are pro solar. Renewable, sustainable.
Cool. So what's next? Where are you guys heading right now?
Well, we are doing projects all over the Southeast right now. So we haven't necessarily, we have a small branch office in north of Orlando, but that's more of a sales location. On a commercial side, we're doing projects all the way up to Washington, D.C., down, all the way down to South Florida. So we do have a footprint throughout the Southeast. As far as what's next, just keep developing our company, keep getting more efficient, and once we get more efficient, grow a little bit more.
That's cool. We just kind of came off an entire July of husband-wife, business owner podcasts. I mean, you guys, I heard him say, like one of the things that got me through was a really, really strong partnership. What has been, from a partnership standpoint, what are the challenges? Like, what are y'all's different roles in the organization, and then what are the challenges? I mean, do you guys offset each other pretty well? And
I'll let him answer that one, and then I'll answer.
Well, all the way from the start, I think we had a similar mindset, specifically focused on growing the business the right way. We had certain values set that we shared, and we have pretty dramatically different personalities, tastes, However, that very fundamental direction of business development, treating the customers a certain way, treating our employees a certain way, and making some decisions with respect to how we develop our business, we agree on, and we can rely on each other to make those decisions on each other's behalf, even when we're not there. So I think some say the definition of partnerships or teams is people that make each other look good. Hard to disagree. Sometimes people say that definition of partnerships are complementary skill sets. Also true. But I think what made us work really well is the fact that our decision making is so similar that we're almost redundant in global decision making, where we know we can trust each other to develop certain areas of the business, knowing that we genuinely would agree with where we're going. And that takes so much time, saves so much time, it takes so much time out, because I know if Jason made a decision, 99.99% of the time, it's going to be a good one. I'll agree with it. And I think it would be vice versa.
It might not be a good one, but you'll probably agree.
So two separate thoughts.
Not to take away from healthy deliberation, and
Yeah, it's not a full redundancy. I mean, there are discussions and debates, and there's things that we don't agree on pursuing necessarily. But I think I actually agree with that. That's very well put. It's kind of like we have built-in rules that we never really discussed. It's just things that I guess our moral compass or something like that lines up well. So we know that, I know if Alex makes a decision, it's in the best interest of the customer, of the company, of ourselves. There's no shady thing going on. Like, I know that. And he knows the same about me. He knows if I'm making a decision, it's in the best interest of all of us and the customer. So I think that was just something that we kind of innately knew. And it could have developed maybe from
as a survival mechanism.
Survival mechanism. We had to do that stuff. We had to stand out. But I think it was just part of our upbringing, just to do what's right. I think doing what's right is a big deal. Because I've heard a lot of horror stories of partners that don't do the right thing, and I'm just, it's strange to me to hear those types of things.
Okay, and you say you're 50-50 partners.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right? So are you do you do the co-CEO thing, or do you have
we instituted essentially a equal directorship, so there's technically no CEO.
Okay.
It's a board of directors of 2.
Okay. And so
and he pulled veto power on me. I was thinking about it the other day. I wanted to work with this guy to do some marketing thing. He was like, I don't like that guy. Veto or something. I didn't remember what he said, but I was like, are you serious? Really? And I called the guy. I was like, I can't do it.
We have a status quo prevalence.
0.01%.
Status quo prevalence, which means in the event if some new decision is being made, the existing pattern has to prevail. So we always have the veto power if something is completely out of whack. So that's essentially the dispute resolution procedure, if you will.
Okay.
If
rare.
If we disagree, it's probably 3 or 4 times in the last 12 years. If we strongly disagree and can't agree on something, whatever institutes the most change loses.
Interesting.
Whatever institutes the most change loses.
Yes.
Right.
It was some radical idea that I can't even think of.
If you're driving a car at high speed, and you want to take a turn, then the sharpest turn is the one that doesn't get taken,
Gotcha.
so the car doesn't flip over.
That's a good analogy.
It's a good analogy.
He's got good analogies.
Yeah. And so you threw it on the veto card because
This guy was like
marketing
shady or what? Like,
No, it was going to be a
the
sharp,
idea-
it was gonna be a
the
sharp
idea was
turn.
that?
He throws down
It
the
might,
veto
yeah,
card.
it may have been a
So
sharp turn, yeah.
Automatically, it's like,
And I was more like, let's just do something.
what if you
let's
guys
change
don't
something.
don't agree on how sharp the turn is?
Oh, we're getting meta here.
I'm just trying to
Then
understand.
we'll probably yell at each other and hear each other out, and he'll
We-
probably end up convincing me that.
We wrote a one-page partnership agreement when we started out.
Yeah.
It had a formal dispute resolution procedure, which we never had to resort to. But it has to do with scheduled discussion, time off, scheduled discussion, time off, and then appealing to third party that we both agree with if we can't come to an agreement.
Okay.
But we
it
haven't
has-
had to do that, so.
Yeah. It basically allows
This is
you to let
interesting
the
stuff.
team.
I like.
Yeah.
I mean, because 50-50 partnerships are hard. Like I used to be in one, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I've had an unsuccessful couple of
So-
50-50 partners's before.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad it's working
he,
out.
he really likes this 99-1 one. Like, it works out really well for him.
Come here, buddy.
He's like, actually, it's just 100%.
Yeah.
It's 100 to 0.
He likes me to think I have one.
You have one.
I'll own 49% of something you own one day.
All right.
Or
Yeah, but that means you
10%
have
of
to
something
lose
you own.
49%.
Or nothing. I mean,
It'll be the bar.
the bar.
Yeah, it'll be the
How
bar.
much percentage are you giving me in the bar?
Give?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much are you gonna give me?
How much will you buy?
I'll let you drink for
I
free.
said what? You're gonna let me drink for free?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good deal. Oh, are we gonna have competing bars?
No.
'Cause I want a
No,
bar.
no. This
Okay.
is your bar that I'm assuming I'm going to own. Anyway. So there's a lot of change that's happening in Gainesville, a lot of development and stuff like that. Do you see that as like an opportunity? Are you getting like in on it? Is it a chance to like kind of get solar where maybe it wasn't before?
I guess any new building is a chance to put solar on it, right? Yeah, there's opportunities. I think there's some limitations on the legislative side. There's things that prevent developers from wanting to put solar on buildings in general when they're building them.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these budgetary constraints, and the way that it's looked at is more of like a frill or an additional thing. And so as soon as something comes up, solar is like the first thing that gets chopped.
The laws are so damn confusing too. I mean, like it seems like there's a solar amendment on the ballot every single year, and you get the people that like are solar proponents. They're like, yeah, and then you hear somebody say, oh no, but don't vote for that because it's tied to this thing that's completely different.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean that's politics.
That's how amendments are typically.
But it's really confusing to understand where to go there. I don't really have a good example. It just seems like that happens every year.
There were a couple in one year. That's probably why it feels that way, because they were like, one was good, one was bad for the solar industry, and they were both promoted by, the bad one was promoted as being really good by the utility industry, and it was very confusing.
Even the vote yes versus vote no gets
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah.
from a connotation standpoint. Do the other firms, whether you're competing firms or something, do you kind of universally agree on what's good and bad for the industry, or is there dissension there
No,
too?
I think there is. I think there's probably a pretty universal agreement on the amendments and what needs to be done in general in the industry, regardless of our competing nature.
So if you're a solar proponent, is there like, can you just go find out what PPM thinks you should do and be like, okay, those guys say vote for this, and
Generally opening the marketplace up for deregulated cogeneration, whether that be solar or otherwise, is important. And that in turn will bring some sort of energy policy to the state, because we don't have an energy policy at the moment. So having anything to do with ability to resell or generate your own electricity would be good for the state. So that's how you can pretty much identify any one of those.
That's what I was getting at with the developers. So if the developers could build a building, put solar on it, and know that they can sell that electricity directly to the tenants, they would do it all day. But they're not legally they can't sell that electricity. They would be considered a utility. They'd have to go through all the process of it's just not worth it. I don't even think they'd be able to.
It's
because,
impossible for them.
Yeah, there would be there's monopolistic territories for utilities in the state. So that's one thing a lot of solar companies and people are proposing or proponents of is deregulation of the grid, to where you'd be able to sell that electricity anywhere. So there would be the grid would be a full open marketplace where, I could sell my solar power to somebody down in Miami. The biomass facility, if GRU wanted to sell that electricity to somebody in the Panhandle, they could now. The way it is, it's pretty much each utility has its own territory that they can sell within.
And there are price-controlled pockets, which puts essentially ratepayers at a disadvantage on a large scale.
Does it ever feel like we're close to that deregulation, or does it feel like it's just always an uphill battle?
I think it's like a 5 to 10 year thing, I think, if it's going to happen at all. It just depends on how the utilities, I think, adapt to the changing grid, because there's a lot of, and Alex knows a lot more about this, the virtual power plants and different, batteries, electrification, different areas of the grid that are being modernized for more energy management. The utilities becoming more energy management entities that help direct the flow of electricity and where it needs to go, and they maintain the grid, but they're not necessarily generating all the power. So them moving from generators to managers, I think, is what's going to happen eventually.
It's kind of like moving from a hotel to Airbnb, where you get a fee from everybody. So there's probably 4 or 5 levels of energy deregulation. One is we have no net metering. You're not allowed to sell your electricity. If you want to generate, we may allow you to interconnect, but you have to store your own power and use your own power. That's kind of the low level. And a couple of states are still doing that. But I think by a few years from now, the entire U.S. will be walking away from that model. The second one is we're going to take your power and credit you back and forth. So if you have access throughout the day, you can use us as your free battery. You can use your credit at night. So that allows the energy generator to capitalize on every kilowatt hour that's generated. The third model is virtual net metering, where I could have 2 facilities, and I can put a solar system on facility A and offset electric bill at a facility B. This one may have wonderful, beautiful flat roof, and this one is urban, but I'm generating on the same grid, so I should be able to benefit, and I should through contribution to the grid. And the fourth model is the virtual power plant. Ironically, one of the largest cities in the U.S. is moving in that direction. Los Angeles currently is working with Sunrun to create a very large distributed power plant, virtual power plant, where every home can be controlled by the utility to some extent, and every home is allowed to sell power. Essentially, if you have a bunch of battery backups spread geographically over a large area, you can manage their existing energy generation, energy storage, instead of trying to supply the base load through a singular power plant. And that is a very new concept. It's not very well studied, but it's already alleviating some of the problems they've been dealing with large development of solar, such as what to do when the sun is not out, what to do when the clouds come over, on a very large scale, megawatts and megawatts and megawatts. And storage allows to buffer that. Now with electric cars coming online and electric cars becoming best-selling cars, it's likely that we're going to have bidirectional charging, which means every car can be a battery for a home. In Europe, in several areas, bidirectional charging is already getting widespread. But if you think about it, a Model 3, a $35,000 electric car, has a week worth of electricity in it for a house. And you can tap into that. Imagine if you can use that as your backup.
I gotcha. So you plug your car up to your house and you power your house.
Exactly.
So the solar can charge the batteries, can charge the car. If you have a power outage, extended period, or if you're not even connected to the grid, you can be completely sustainable.
And this is already happening in Europe, you said?
Yes. And in specialized developments here in the U.S. as well. So you can achieve pretty high level of autonomy if you have large storage and substantial generation. Now imagine this guy goes out for a vacation. Now you have maybe 30 days, a few weeks of excess energy that can be sold. So the utility could essentially transfer it across the street with very little distribution cost and charge a fee for it. And
now, are most of the homes and stuff, are you usually using up most of what you consume in a month, or like what you bring in a month?
Currently, the solar systems are sized not to exceed the needs of a home. So they'll basically offset what you need and not more than that.
So what is
I mean, now I'm going off in a different direction a little bit. What is it like a company like Disney World has, right? Like didn't they just like create like some solar? I mean, I think I've seen them. It looks like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Like it's like the logo, and it's like on, a piece of land. I mean, and are they able to power their park?
That solar plant went up about 3 years ago, Jason, I believe. But it's
Probably
still very
3 to 5.
marketable. Yeah, it's still very marketable. It's a cool concept. Generally following Disney, I would say that they are solid in their environmental commitment. I saw them building out large-scale power plants. They're much bigger than that Mickey Mouse. That Mickey Mouse is really cute, and that's what gets on the news, but they actually have much bigger development
For sure.
to offset their use. And I wouldn't be surprised if they'll be.
Do you know if they are like completely offsetting their use?
I don't believe that they are completely offsetting it, but I know they have a pretty audacious goal set up.
Yeah, that's cool.
To be net zero in the foreseeable future.
And Disney's so huge. I mean,
Yeah.
so many industries that they cross into. So it would be, that one farm is not doing it, but
No, for
they
sure.
may be offsetting a percentage of their theme parks with that farm or something.
That's
like
still
that.
cool that they
Yeah.
are making that kind of commitment.
Yeah,
and setting
absolutely.
that
I
up.
mean, that's what it takes is companies like that to make this commitment to get everybody else to kind of join in.
What do
Well,
you?
the largest user of solar is Walmart.
Is it?
So yeah, they know they know how to count money. So then they have Walgreens, Macy's, like the names that they're the largest users of solar energy right now.
So where's the biggest kickback then? Because you talk about Walmart knowing how to count money. If it's lucrative from a financial aspect, why aren't more people getting on board?
It's the adoption curve. It takes a while to build momentum. Even if something's really good and works really well, it takes time to build inertia.
Is it dinosaurs? Is it like people that are making these decisions for these corporations that are just like, oh, but coal?
There's some of that, definitely. And there's also, there's a lot of things that you can, with solar, you're really looking at prepaying for your electricity and getting a substantially lower rate by prepaying. So that's kind of the mindset you need to take. I think a lot of Americans are in the mindset of a month-to-month payment type of plan. If I could save, if I can break out this massive payment in monthly terms, then I'll do it. But you start talking about, buy your electricity 20 years in advance. People are like, whoa.
It's a rent versus own issue.
Yeah.
You can own your own power plant, or you can rent a piece of a power plant every month. So
That's interesting.
Is it like stability? So say you do that investment and you said, it's a 20-year thing, right? And then you end up relocating. Is that value you get to keep and resell? You know what I mean? Like say you
because
put a
the
power plant
value
in
of
your
the
house.
building goes up because now it's got an asset that generates revenue or offsets an expense, which is similar to generating revenue. You get tax credits, you get depreciation. So there's a lot of stuff on the front end that gets offset. So if you're in a building for only a couple of years and you move, you can typically recoup the entire cost and get some benefit on top of it.
since we're talking dollars and cents, imagine you have a new home that's built by a builder, and cost of ownership of that home is a mortgage plus utilities plus property tax plus HOA fees, whatnot. If you put solar on that home, it actually lowers the cost of ownership if it's rolled in the mortgage. And the factor in Florida right now with our resources is 1 to 3. So for every $50 you put into a solar system, you get $150 benefit per month. So, and that's before you take the tax credit. So, and solar systems are warranted for 25 years, so they're truly a 30-year asset. So if you couple it with a new home, your roof, and your mortgage, you get yourself a substantial reduction of home ownership. Property value goes up, the equity goes up, and it just helps everyone. The builder or the homeowner can take the tax credit. It's a wonderful value proposition. But adoption is not easy. Speaking of development, it's a bittersweet feeling, right? We have all these homes now expanding out west towards Newberry. We have communities building out towards Newberry. And yes, we're going to gain some strength in numbers as a community, and it's great, and homeownership is wonderful. But it would be really cool to see a better thought out kind of long-term vision for the community as a whole. And that would include sustainability as well. Builders are really good about doing what they like to do, what works for them. I don't know if you've ever been to a home builder's office. it's like a war zone. Everything is on schedule. Everything is by the minute. We've done new construction with a lot of guys out there. And any change just trickles down, so they don't like change.
Yeah.
And solar means change.
I was going to say, I think a lot of it is a little bit of just the fear of the unknown.
Yep.
You know, it's like, you have that. They don't want to change. Like, bringing this in. Yeah, sure, it could be, sustainable, and sure, it could, add value to our clients.
From their
but,
perspective,
the
it's not
change
broken. Why fix it?
Right.
But we know, deep down, we know that the whole thing is broken.
How much of it do you think is like, well, this is still a growing industry, there's still change? I mean, like things like, hey, Elon Musk, right? I mean, he has some sort of house where the actual tiles of the house,
right?
Is solar. Like, is that the direction that we're going? Are people like looking at that and saying, maybe we should just wait till that comes out?
No, we are not going in that direction. That product is awesome and it's going to have its use. But where we're going in reality is it's west to east trickle down policy now, where in California, you can't build a new home without solar on it. That's how they decided to crack down on irresponsible energy development. They're like, okay, if you want to build a home, you have to generate power with it. We won't issue a permit without it.
That's cool.
And some counties in Florida actually are doing the same thing. I think North Miami Beach.
Yeah, I believe so. Beach.
Starting 2020, you can't build a home there without a solar system. So
unfortunately, there's nowhere to build homes there anymore. Every square inch is taken up. But.
Right.
Cool.
No, but it is a good initiative, and to answer your other question, there are some people that do want to wait. I mean, there's always people. I guess they're the late adopters that don't. They're like, oh, there's always going to be a better cell phone. That's the guy with the flip phone still. I don't want to get the new iPhone because they're coming out with a new one. It's like, yeah, but you got a flip phone. It's
That's
like,
a great analogy.
That is a great analogy. You got one back on him.
any phone you get is going to be 10,000 times better. Get an iPhone 3. It'll be
Right.
better than that phone. So, yeah, we do see a lot of that. There are people that are like, well, I heard about these roof tiles, and it's like, yeah, but they cost like...
There's cost of doing nothing. You wait 5 years, it would have paid for itself by then. All of a sudden, you're starting from scratch. You could have made a positive impact on your environment and your wallet.
I mean, you are developing a market. You have to educate. I mean, and it's so hard to do. I mean, even like when I look at the early days of New Scooters for Less, I didn't think that was going to be super hard to do. But we had people coming in, and students. I mean, students would say, hell no, mom and dad, I'm not going to be caught dead on that scooter.
Geeky.
That thing is dorky. I'm not going to be on a scooter.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, will you shut up and let your mom buy you a scooter? I mean, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I realized, I was like, dude, we have to change the perception.
Yeah.
We have to educate people that we're not selling them a scooter. We're selling them their time back.
Yeah.
Where, you're waking up in your apartment, walking downstairs, getting on your scooter and going straight to class. You're not waiting for a bus. You're not circling the parking lot looking for a parking place, and so we knew that we had to really change that. Now, here we are 15 years later, have effectively done that. So now it's like, now people show up and go, they look out on campus, they go, I need a scooter.
I need one.
Like it's just like there's so many scooters. Like I obviously need a scooter. There's scooters everywhere. And then now that, especially from a media and marketing strategy, it's completely changed. It's all brand awareness.
Yeah.
We just want you like, okay, I need a scooter. Who sells scooters? Top of mind, New Scooters for Less. Like that's, so where we were really like pushing and trying to educate people and market that, like, hey, we're selling you your time back, we're doing this and that. When we were really pushing that, now it's just completely changed. Now it's just like, oh, I'm a student, I need a scooter. Where do I get it? Being top of mind.
So identifying the business you're really in at that time when you were educating folks was really important.
And I think it sounds like you guys are still very much in a, hey, we got to continue. We got to educate our customers. We got to educate our customers. We got to educate our customers because there's just still so many questions.
Right. And solar is written into construction industry and service industry, but it's not. What will happen if this wonderful, crisp air conditioning goes out? What would be your first thing? You call somebody, right? You call the AC man.
Well, I'll cry first, but yeah.
Right. There you go. Nobody calls a solar guy. There is no emergency. There is no discomfort.
Yeah.
Nobody wakes up in the morning, I need a solar system right now. It's something that you have to bring to people.
We're trying to make it painful.
Well, and
I think the earth will do it for us over time.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, it's definitely a super interesting business. I mean, congrats on the success so far, and definitely the perseverance.
Sure.
That's really, really awesome that you guys were able to get through those challenges. we do need to wrap up. So like, why don't you tell everybody like where they can find you, how they can connect with you, whether it's social media, email, whatever you want to give them. Website.
We are at www.ppm, like power production management, .solar. ppm.solar.
Oh, they got .solar domains now? That's cool.
You got .everything domain.
I dig it.
That's 3 W's, by the way.
Go back
Remember
up
people
Collin
used to do that?
.solar just so I have it.
Right.
On Facebook, we're
I will
at
too.
on Facebook we're at Sun PPM.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys, I mean, you have any last
I'm
minute
saving
things?
the rest of mine for the side hustle.
Okay. So you guys, I mean, hey, that's a good, thank you. We have brought the side hustle back, but we are recording them for a future Patreon page that is going to be going up because we're going to have some exclusive behind the scenes content. One of the things that we want to do is start generating some revenue for this podcast so that way it will be able to be self-sustaining and move on. So we're going to end up creating a Patreon channel where we're going to have a whole bunch of different exclusive swag and a whole bunch of things coming. It's I don't know if it's going to be ready by the time this episode comes out, but it's definitely moving along. And so the side hustles will be on there, which is just behind the scenes, a couple more questions that I have for you guys, and we'll record those next. But thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
and
Thanks
being
for having
here.
us.
This is a lot of fun. It's super interesting, and I wish you the very best moving forward.
Thank you, guys.
Good?
Thank you.
This is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa.
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 We'll see you later. Bye.